You open your textbook with the best intentions but find yourself scrolling through social media exactly 5 minutes later. Your brain tells you that you are working hard while you stare at the same paragraph for the 10th time. This invisible friction is not a lack of willpower but a sign that your mind is actively rejecting your methods. You are trapped in a cycle of passive consumption that feels like progress but results in almost zero long-term retention. Behind this common struggle lies a dangerous psychological illusion, where familiarity is frequently mistaken for actual mastery of a subject. Neuroscience suggests that your brain is designed to forget information unless you prove to it that the data is vital. Every time you highlight a sentence without processing it, you are essentially watching someone else do push-ups for your muscles. You might believe you are just not as smart as the high achievers who seem to learn everything almost effortlessly. The truth is far more uncomfortable because your current study habits are likely eroding your cognitive potential every single day. In an age of instant digital gratification, your ability to maintain deep focus has become your most valuable and endangered resource. Our ancestors needed to filter out irrelevant noise to survive, but today that same mechanism is being hijacked by constant notifications. Your brain prioritizes survival and efficiency, which means it will ruthlessly discard anything it perceives as boring or non-essential information. When you sit in silence and merely read, you are signaling to your biology that this information has no immediate utility. This mismatch between modern academic requirements and ancient survival instincts creates a paralyzing state of mental fog and chronic procrastination. The consumer archetype spends hours making pretty notes and buying highlighters while their actual understanding remains shallow and very fragile. You may feel the familiar tension in your neck right now as you realize how many hours you have truly wasted. If you continue down this path of passive learning, you risk falling behind in a world that rewards speed and adaptability. Stagnation in your learning habits eventually leads to a decline in your professional confidence and your overall sense of self-worth. Witness the hidden cost of inaction as your dreams of mastery slowly dissolve into a reality of missed opportunities and regret. The first step toward escaping this mental prison is understanding the biological reality of how a human brain actually stores memory. Real learning only happens when you force your brain to retrieve information without any external assistance. Your brain ruthlessly filters out data unless it feels urgent, emotional, or immediately useful for survival. This is why testing yourself clumsily is far more powerful than reviewing your notes perfectly. When you struggle to recall a fact, you are physically strengthening the neural pathway to that memory. Most people avoid this specific discomfort because it exposes exactly what they do not know yet. The discomfort you feel during recall is actually a biological signal that deep learning is happening. Remember that no mental struggle means no cognitive growth, just as no pain means no muscle gain. You must stop asking if you understood the chapter and start asking if you can recall it. Close your eyes right now and try to explain the last concept you studied without looking. Builders differentiate themselves by immediately turning every piece of input into a concrete form of output. They write summaries, draw diagrams from memory, or teach concepts to an empty room to ensure retention. This active process prevents the illusion of competence that plagues the majority of passive students today. You do not remember what you consume efficiently, but you always remember what you have created yourself. Another major trap is the belief that learning requires long and exhausting marathons of study time. Your brain is not designed to maintain high-intensity focus for hours without a significant break. We falsely assume that spending more time at a desk automatically equals retaining more useful information. Parkinson's law dictates that work expands to fill the time you assign for its completion. If you give yourself all day to finish a task, you will inevitably take all day. Compressing your study time into short sprints forces your brain to become sharper and more decisive. You need to stop measuring your effort by hours and start measuring it by intensity and focus. You make a critical error when you treat every piece of information as equally important for your success. The Pareto Principle states that 80% of your results come from only 20% of your efforts. Identify the core concepts that unlock the rest of the subject instead of trying to memorize everything. If you master the mechanical gears of a machine, the rest of the system becomes easy to understand. Most students waste their energy polishing what they already know because it makes them feel safe and successful. Revising your strengths feels satisfying, but it is a deceptive trap that does not move you forward. You must become ruthless about identifying your weaknesses and attacking them before you do anything else. Ask yourself which specific topic would make the biggest difference if you could only study one thing. This level of strategic prioritization requires you to abandon the false comfort of constantly being busy. You can achieve more in 20 minutes of deep work than in 2 hours of distracted multitasking. Set a timer for 25 minutes and commit to a single task with absolute intensity. Your brain rewards this focused intensity by encoding information far deeper than during long and boring sessions. Once the timer stops, you must walk away because recovery is just as essential as the exertion. Motivation is a fickle emotion that will inevitably abandon you exactly when you need it most. You watch an inspiring video and feel ready to change, but that feeling evaporates by the next morning. Top performers do not rely on how they feel because they rely entirely on their daily systems. A system is a set of non-negotiable behaviors that run automatically regardless of your current mood. You study at the same time in the same place until the decision becomes completely automatic. This removes decision fatigue and preserves your mental energy for the actual task of learning. Consistency is not a result of willpower, but the natural outcome of a well-designed routine. If you want to learn unfairly fast, you must immediately teach what you have just learned. Explain the concept out loud to an imaginary audience until you can simplify it perfectly. Teaching forces your brain to organize the mess and filter out the noise effectively. You do not need an audience because the act of articulation itself creates the structure. Learning faster is not about adding more tools, but about subtracting the friction around you. Imagine your brain as a whiteboard that gets scribbled over every time you check a notification. You try to write complex ideas on top of that noise and wonder why nothing sticks. Turn your phone on airplane mode because every distraction is a theft of your potential. Clear your desk of everything except the absolute essentials to signal deep focus to your mind. Less chaos in your external environment creates the necessary space for clarity in your internal world. Stop keeping your learning private and start forcing clarity by sharing your insights with the world. When you turn a vague thought into written language, you burn it permanently into your memory. Your brain remembers what it has to defend, so speak your learning into existence. There is a quiet and invisible phase where your progress will feel completely flat. You will feel no excitement and no breakthroughs, and you will want to quit. This silence is actually the sound of your brain shifting from short-term memory to long-term mastery. Growth is often happening underground, like roots forming long before the tree breaks the surface. Most people interpret this silence as failure and abandon the process right before the breakthrough. You are not failing during these quiet moments, you are simply settling into the deep work. Just on the other side of this boredom lies the clarity you have been chasing. The most powerful shift occurs when you stop trying to learn and decide you are a learner. Your brain actively scans for concrete evidence to prove that your current identity is actually true. Every time you complete a focused sprint, you cast a vote for the person you are becoming. Even your failed attempts count because they reinforce the story that you do not give up. You are no longer waiting for external permission or results to define exactly who you are. Real transformation happens when you start acting like the person you want to become today. Learning fast is simply about aligning your methods with how your biology actually functions. You now understand that recall is superior to repetition and creation is superior to consumption. You know that short sprints of intensity defeat long marathons of distracted and low-energy effort. You realize that teaching a concept is the only way to truly lock it into memory. The people who seem to learn effortlessly are not born with a better brain than you. They simply stopped fighting against their own biology and built a system that actually works. It looks unfair to the outside world, but it is just a matter of proper alignment. You do not need more hours in the day or more expensive notebooks to succeed. You need a system that respects the way your mind was designed to operate. Stop acting like a passive student and start acting like a ruthless architect of your own mind. The path of least resistance leads to a life of stagnation and missed potential. The path of friction and retrieval leads to a life where you can master anything. You have the tools and the knowledge, so the only variable left is your choice. Step away from the screen and begin your first sprint because your future self is watching.